Something has been building under your skin. You've felt it for the past week, haven't you? That electric restlessness, that pressure in your chest, that sense that something is trying to surface. And if you thought it was just stress, just exhaustion, just you being too sensitive, what if it wasn't? What if that restlessness has been pointing you towards something specific? Something that becomes available tomorrow, January 28th. Most people have been experiencing something unusual this past week, snapping at people without clear reason, questioning commitments that previously felt solid, thinking about paths they'd dismissed long ago, and they assume something's off. But here's what most people don't realize. There's a pattern here, and it's been documented across centuries. Specific planetary configurations that correlate with specific psychological shifts, and right now, we're in one of those periods. Let me show you what's actually been happening. This didn't begin tomorrow. It began 9 days ago, January 18th. New moon in Capricorn, in the final degrees of the sign. That lunation planted something, a seed of discomfort that's been developing ever since. Then something interesting started occurring. One by one, major planets began transitioning into Aquarius. The Sun on January 20th, Mercury next, then Venus, and on January 23rd, Mars entered Aquarius. Suddenly, the energy landscape completely shifted. The slow, methodical, build carefully approach started feeling suffocating. Structures that previously felt supportive started feeling restrictive. Many people noticed this shift. That growing impatience, that mounting frustration with anything that feels outdated, inauthentic, or confining. But something even more significant was developing in the background. January 26th, 2 days ago, Neptune, after spending 14 years in Pisces, transitioned into Aries. This occurs once every 165 years, a generational threshold. And here's what this transition represents in astrological observation: a shift from passive spiritual seeking to active spiritual embodiment, from waiting for the right moment to recognizing this moment as the right one. Neptune in Aries historically correlates with periods when individual vision becomes more important than collective consensus, when personal authenticity takes priority over social harmony. This set a particular stage for what occurred next. Yesterday, January 27th, something intensified. Mars met Pluto at the same degree in Aquarius. Throughout astrological history, this combination has been associated with moments of concentrated will meeting evolutionary pressure, when what you want comes face to face with what's trying to transform. Many people reported experiencing something pronounced yesterday, maybe an intense moment of clarity, or confrontation, either external or internal, maybe sudden anger at feeling controlled or limited, maybe exhausting recognition of what needs to end, even without feeling prepared. This aspect has historically coincided with people reaching breaking points, not breakdowns, breaking points. The moment when continuing to suppress what's true becomes more uncomfortable than expressing it. And this appears to have been preparation for tomorrow, because tomorrow represents something different. Tomorrow isn't about pressure, it's about pathway. All that restless energy, all that building tension. Tomorrow, it finds direction. At 7:30 p.m. tomorrow, a specific geometric relationship forms in the sky. And before I explain what it is, you need to understand why this particular configuration is noteworthy. It creates what astrologers call a self-reinforcing cycle. The more you recognize what you actually want, the more you feel pulled to pursue it. The more you clarify your authentic direction, the more your instincts align with that clarity. This isn't subtle. For people attuned to these patterns, tomorrow often feels like something unlocking, not being forced open, unlocking. So what specifically occurs tomorrow? Mars in Aquarius forms a 60-degree angle called a sextile with Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius. If you're unfamiliar with Lilith, here's the essential understanding. Lilith represents a mathematical point in lunar orbit, but in astrological symbolism, she correlates with the suppressed, the exiled, the authentic self that learned to hide, the wild truth, the inconvenient honesty, the parts of you that were told to stay quiet. When Mars, planet of action, will, and forward movement, forms a supportive angle with Lilith, A pattern emerges. An opening appears. A moment when aligning your actions with your deepest instincts becomes more accessible than usual. But here's what makes tomorrow's configuration particularly interesting. Air feeds fire. Aquarius is an air sign. Sagittarius is fire. This creates a kind of self-sustaining momentum. Your thoughts fuel your desires. Your desires inform your actions. Your actions reinforce your authenticity. For people who've been feeling caged, this often correlates with recognizing the exit was there all along. Now, 3 zodiac signs appear to be particularly positioned for this energy. While this configuration affects everyone, certain signs are standing at the epicenter. If you have these placements, especially rising sign, tomorrow may mark a noticeable shift in trajectory. Aquarius, the sovereign awakening. You're currently hosting a remarkable concentration of planetary energy. Sun, Mercury, Venus, Mars, and Pluto, all in your sign. Your first house, representing identity and self-expression, is completely activated. Yesterday's Mars-Pluto conjunction likely brought you face to face with a question: who am I actually versus who I've been performing as? Tomorrow, as Mars connects with Lilith in your 11th house of community and collective vision, another question emerges. Are you willing to stand in your truth, even if it means standing apart? People with strong Aquarius placements often report experiencing tomorrow as permission to stop conforming to groups that don't reflect their values. Sagittarius, the unleashed truth teller. Lilith is currently in your first house, your identity sector, which means the untamed, authentic, unfiltered version of you is already near the surface. Tomorrow, Mars in your 3rd house of communication provides what many describe as a megaphone moment. The day you say what's been waiting to be said. The day you stop softening your truth to maintain comfort. Sagittarius placements often experience tomorrow as the end of diplomatic silence. Aries, the spiritual pioneer. Neptune entered your sign 2 days ago, beginning a 13-year cycle. In symbolic astrology, this correlates with periods of spiritual individualism and personal mission. You're being invited to embody something beyond conventional success. Not a job, a calling. Tomorrow, Mars in your 11th house often correlates with sudden willingness to risk everything on a vision only you can see. People with Aries placements frequently report feeling guided by something larger, and tomorrow may be when you finally trust it. But here's where people often disconnect from this energy. They sense the opening. They feel the possibility, and then they hesitate. They analyze. They rationalize. They convince themselves it's not the right time, or they're not ready, or they should wait for more certainty. And in doing so, they remain where they are. Because here's what sextiles represent in astrological timing. They're opportunities, not inevitabilities. They're open doors, but walking through requires choice. And if hesitation becomes the primary response, if fear outweighs recognition, the moment passes. Tomorrow, many people will sense an easier path toward what's been feeling impossible. The resistance will be lower, the clarity will be higher. All that's required is movement. But standing still, analyzing whether to move, waiting for permission, needing 3 more confirmations before trusting yourself, that keeps you in the same place when the window closes. The people who experience transformation during these periods tend to share certain patterns. They feel the pull and respond. They trust somatic knowing over mental fear. They choose authentic risk over safe performance. So let me ask you something. When you feel that pull tomorrow, and many people do, what will your response be? Here's something else you might notice tomorrow. This energy isn't purely psychological. It often manifests physically. Mars correlates with vitality, physical body, blood flow. Lilith correlates with instinctual, somatic knowing. When they connect, your body often becomes the primary receiver. People frequently report waking up feeling unusually energized, almost wired. Even without caffeine, heart rate slightly elevated, skin more sensitive, an overwhelming urge to move, to release, to express the charge building in the nervous system. Some experience it as warmth, heat spreading through chest or solar plexus, the fire of acknowledged desire. Others feel profound restlessness, unable to sit still, pacing without conscious reason. And some experience it as gut clarity, That deep, undeniable knowing that simply says, "This is what needs to happen." These physical signals matter. Your body often knows truth before your mind can articulate it. If your body signals movement, consider moving. If it signals expression, consider speaking. If it signals departure, consider what that means. These aren't random impulses tomorrow. They're information. After tomorrow, something shifts. And here's what people often report about these threshold moments. Tomorrow isn't just another day. It's a demarcation. The version of you before January 28th and the version after may not be identical. Some people wake up January 29th, feeling noticeably lighter. Old fears that previously controlled behavior suddenly feel optional. Patterns that seemed permanent suddenly feel changeable. Others notice it in external reality. Opportunities aligned with authentic direction start appearing. People matching a new frequency are suddenly present. Doors previously locked seem to open as if they were waiting for you to become who you needed to be to walk through them. But there are also completions. Not everyone continues the journey with you. Some relationships naturally conclude, not through drama, but through quiet recognition of diverging paths. Some environments start feeling incompatible, and you simply stop engaging. This is part of the process. You're not being abandoned. You're being refined. What doesn't match the frequency of your authentic truth naturally falls away. And while this may feel uncomfortable, it's part of creating space. Because the version of you emerging on the other side of tomorrow, the one who stopped performing, stopped hiding, stopped minimizing, that version deserves a life reflecting their wholeness. And creating that life sometimes requires releasing the one built for who you used to be. If you want to consciously engage with this energy tomorrow, here's what many find effective. No complicated rituals necessary. This is about alignment, not performance. Timing, ideally around 7:30 p.m., or whenever evening feels right. Clear your space. Use sound, bell, voice, clapping to shift stagnant energy. Light a red or black candle. Fire element representing both Sagittarius and Mars. As you light it, speak, "I honor the fire of my authentic truth." Take paper and write one specific limitation. A belief that confines you. A belief that confines you. A situation that restricts you. An expectation you're ready to release. Be specific. Not "I want freedom," but "I release the belief that I must sacrifice my desires to be acceptable." Read it aloud. Then say, "I acknowledge what this taught me, but I release its hold. By the energy of Mars and Lilith, I sever this pattern." Burn the paper. Watch it become ash. As it burns, visualize the Mars-Pluto conjunction dissolving its grip completely. Once it's ash, release it into air or out a window, returning it to source. Final step. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Hand on heart. Ask yourself, what does my liberated self want to do first? Listen, the answer may not be logical. It may not make conventional sense. But if it comes from body, from gut, from that instinctual knowing, consider trusting it. That may be your first step into the new pattern. The alignment has occurred. The pressure has built. The threshold has arrived. And tomorrow, the pathway toward what's been feeling impossible becomes more visible than it's been in years. Perhaps in your entire life. But it requires participation. It requires choice. It requires willingness to move through discomfort toward a version of yourself that's been waiting for this moment. Your deepest desires may become very clear tomorrow. The question is, what will you do with that clarity? Will you continue performing for people who don't know your authentic self? Will you keep carrying limitations, some imposed by others, some self-created? Because tomorrow Mars connects with Lilith, and that connection represents an invitation to remember who you were before conditioning told you who to be. An invitation to speak truths that have been pressing against your throat. An invitation to choose the authentic, unapologetic life that's been calling. The window is open. The pathway is clear. Space is being held for your liberation. The first step is yours to take.